All right, today's topic is the money conversation we are not having, financial wellness and mental health. If you'd like to come up on the panel for this discussion, please send a request. My mod will bring you up. Imagine this for a second. In mental health spaces, we will talk endlessly about anxiety, trauma, boundaries, inner children, shadow work, nervous system regulation, self-care routines, all of it. But the second someone says the word money, we get silent. It's almost like the room freezes, like we all agreed, unspoken, that this topic is off limits. And that's wild, because financial stress is one of the biggest drivers of mental health distress. Over 80% of Americans report that money significantly impacts their mental health, and Gen Z and millennials, they're actually getting hit the hardest. Student loans, gig economy, instability, rising house costs, inflation, all of that refuses to chill. So why don't we talk about it? Because ignoring money doesn't make the anxiety disappear. It just makes it louder and lonelier. Lonelier. Let's talk about shame, because that's the real reason money stays taboo. This isn't just, oops, I overspent. This is that deep, quiet voice that says, I'm bad with money. I should be better than this. And if people knew, they would judge me. That shame turns into avoidance. You don't open the bill. You don't check the bank app. You stack unopened envelopes somewhere out of sight, under the bed, in a drawer, and hope future you magically fixes it. Meanwhile, your anxiety is climbing the walls. And here's the extra layer that really messes people up in mental health spaces. There's this toxic belief that if you're doing the work, journaling, healing, being self-aware, even helping others, you're supposed to be above the money stress. And I would say it's an unspoken belief. I wouldn't say that we actually verbally say that. I think it's just one of those things that we have in our head. So it's almost as if enlightenment just cancels the rent, but it doesn't. And psychology does back this up, because shame fuels avoidance. Avoidance worsens financial problems, and that worsens anxiety and depression. It is not a character flaw. It is how human brains respond to threat. Now, financial stress isn't just uncomfortable, it is biological. Money stress keeps your brain in threat mode. Your cortisol is elevated, your nervous system never fully powers down, and that's why we see higher rates of anxiety disorders, clinical depression, chronic insomnia, high blood pressure, weakened immune systems. In fact, 42% of US adults say money is the single biggest source of stress in their lives. So let's just sit with that for a moment. 42% of US adults say money is the single biggest source of stress in their lives. And here's the cruel irony. Mental health care itself is becoming more expensive. Therapy sessions that cost hundreds a month, medications with brutal copays, workforce shortages, driving wait lists longer and longer, and about 60% of people delay or skip mental health treatment purely because of cost. So now that we're stuck in allergy mode, Jamie's gonna twitch, okay? So now that you're stuck in survival mode, unable to afford the very support meant to help you escape it, that's not a personal failure, that's a system problem. So how do we break this? Not by oversharing every transaction, not by trauma dumping spreadsheets, but we humanize the struggle. There's a difference between oversharing and destigmatizing. Oversharing seeks validation through chaos. Destigmatizing disarms shame by saying this happened and I'm still worthy. Something simple as, I froze my credit cards for 3 months so I could breathe. That sentence alone creates relief for someone listening who thought they were the only one. Financial wellness experts break this down into 3 basics. Being able to cover current needs, handling unexpected expenses without panic, and building toward a future that feels possible. These are not financial luxuries. These are mental health fundamentals. When we talk openly, shame loosens its grip, and empowerment replaces secrecy. If your energy is low, that's okay. We're not doing financial boot camp, okay? You're going to start tiny, 5 minutes. You're going to use a free app like Pocket Guard, Rocket Money, one of those apps that can help you learn how to budget. Patterns are going to be more important than perfection. Then you're going to write down 3 top values, not goals, values: family, creativity, stability, freedom, peace. And you're going to look at one spending category and ask, does this support what I care about? Not everything has to go, just one swap for the week. Okay. So before we deep dive this, the CFPB, if you're in the US, that's the Center for Financial something, Protection Bureau or something, I don't remember, offers free debt tools, but it's CFPB and financial well-being guides. Mental Health America also has resources linking money, stress, and mental health. And many employers offer EAPs that offer confidential financial coaching and counseling at no cost. Long-term pause before spending and ask, does this align with the life I'm trying to build? That pause alone restores a sense of control. Okay? Disclaimer and housekeeping before we get started. Okay? Hi, my name is Jamie. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in Christian counseling of substance abuse and addictive disorders. I completed my internship for my addiction counseling license at Arizona State Prison, did that for about 4 years, had a midlife crisis, decided I wasn't what I wanted to be when I grew up, that I was going to write full-time, and here I am on TikTok creating content full-time. I do still write, but currently revenue is coming in by discussing mental health things over here in the social media space, so that is what we're running with right now. Okay, so a couple things. I am no longer a licensed therapist, but if I was a licensed therapist, I couldn't be your therapist. Okay, this is all educational content. These are my opinions, and these are not a substitute for professional therapy or any type of financial advice. Please always chat with a qualified pro for your unique situation, whether it's financial or mental health. Okay? Now we are going to dive in. All right. Hey, everyone. You still awake? Still awake? All right. In mental health circles, we pour our hearts out about anxiety, trauma, boundaries, and endless self-care rituals. But when we bring up money, sometimes we get total crickets, and it's almost like there's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to name. And here's the kicker. Financial stress is one of the top triggers for mental health struggles, with surveys showing that it impacts over 80% of Americans, hitting younger generations like Gen Z and millennials the hardest because of student loan debt, gig economy instability, and skyrocketing living costs. So why does this silence persist, and why should we care? Well, ignoring it isn't going to make it go away. And it amplifies the chaos in our minds and in our lives. And I feel like our mental health can be affected by so many different things that it was important to talk about this, especially after a few days ago we had Constance on discussing the impact of what she does on people's mental health. And she's a accountant, okay? So let's get real. We're going to talk about the shame spiral. So let's get real about why we clam up on money talks. Shame isn't just a quick pang of guilt over an impulse buy. It is a deep, gnawing, like I'm a total failure as a human vibe that makes us avoid opening our bills, checking bank accounts, or even admitting that we're struggling to our friends. Picture hiding unopened envelopes under the bed while your anxiety skyrockets. That is the spiral in action. Then there's this toxic, maybe unspoken myth floating around that if you're doing mental health work, you're supposed to be above petty money concerns. And I think that's all in our head. That's from overthinking. It's almost as if we feel like enlightenment should erase rent due dates, but it doesn't, okay? It keeps people isolated, pretending we're all thriving while secretly drowning. And the science backs the vicious cycle. Shame fuels avoidance behaviors, which tanks your finances further, compounding anxiety and depression in loops, proven by psych studies. This is not a weakness. It is a wired human response that we can learn to interrupt. Okay. So, what are the real impacts of the financial stress? Financial stress isn't just a side note, it's a direct highway to heightened anxiety, clinical depression, chronic sleep loss, and even physical tolls like high blood pressure or weakened immunity. With data revealing 42% of US adults pinpointing money as the biggest drain on their mental health. And I know I said that earlier. I just want to repeat it because I really think we need to sit with that. 42% of US adults pinpointing money as the biggest drain on their mental health. Think about the constant worry over cash flow and how it hijacks your brain's threat system. It floods your brain with cortisol that mimics PTSD level stress. And the cruel irony in this is mental health care itself is ballooning in costs for 2026 amid inflation, workforce shortages, and rising demand. Therapy sessions averaging hundreds per month, meds, and steep copays lead 60% of folks skipping or delaying treatment purely due to cash barriers. This instability doesn't just limit the therapy, it traps you again into that survival mode, that fight or flight mode, where you can't afford basics like nutritious food, safe housing, time off work. And this can create a full-blown poverty mental health trap that blocks any real recovery path. It's a system rigged against healing. That's why we're talking about it today. So how do we break the taboo around talking about money? Well, it's time to flip the script. We need to start normalizing financial transparency. I'm not saying get on the internet and tell everybody your financial business. No. But if you're in a relationship, you need to talk about it with your partner. If you're solo, you need to take a close look at your finances and just be honest about it. You cannot avoid your bills into going away. And the longer you avoid them, the worse it gets for you. You need to be able to talk about them with an accountant or whoever you're comfortable talking to money about. All right? So normalizing financial transparency starts with raw, factual shares. Say it out loud. Even if you're only saying it to yourself, say, I froze my credit cards for 3 months just to breathe. I started balancing my checkbook twice a week just so I can make sure I don't make any mistakes. Not oversharing every transaction. And you don't need to make it public either, but you do need to humanize your struggle and spark your own Me Too moments that build real community and resilience. And the line that you need to make sure that you draw is being honest with yourself. Okay? You have to be honest with yourself. Oversharing dumps details for drama. So I don't want you guys to go out into the world and say, Jamie told me to share that I have X amount of debt. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay? I am just saying, be more open and honest about, I need to budget, I'm working on a budget, those things. Okay? This helps destigmatize sharing that it's not all perfect here in our world, right? We need to be authentic. And it also helps give you a little bit of vulnerability, but it also makes you more aware. I will tell you, I literally avoid purchases now because I don't want to have to log it in my checkbook twice a week. I have to update it. And I'm behind. I didn't get to log anything last week. So this week I get to be crazy and add a whole bunch of stuff, which I'm going to do right after this. So it has curbed my ability to just recklessly spend because I have money. I'm trying to be more mindful and more intentional about how I spend money. And the goal here is, when I'm talking about mental health in general, my goal is to normalize the conversations that are not being normalized or that come with shame. And sometimes making bad financial decisions comes with shame. And it's like, you already feel bad enough if you haven't made good decisions financially. Why do you need to feel worse? Let's just be open and honest about it. I did that, and this is what I'm going to do differently. And then stick to that plan. Financial wellness, as defined by experts, boils down to 3 pillars: current security, which is covering bills without dread; shock absorption, which is handling emergencies without derailing; and future freedom, saving towards goals that light you up. And guess what? These are also mental health fundamentals. And these can also help reduce stress, reduce chronic stress right at the root. Because what did I say? 42% of Americans said they are struggling, like their mental health is affected by their financial situation. Imagine how we can make that number go down. And that's just the ones who were open and honest about it. That's a small sample. These are health fundamentals. We're taking a breath here. These are mental health fundamentals, reducing chronic stress. Okay. Open conversations / the grip of shame, and rewiring our collective money mindset from scarcity, I don't have enough of it, to empowerment, to I feel secure financially. And it's how we all rise. Okay. So this is going to be one of my shorter chats, especially since TikTok is on the fritz today, guys. But we're going to go over one more section, practical steps. Okay. If you're low on energy or bandwidth, those are things that are totally valid. Who's low on energy? I'm low on energy. I want you to kick off your financial self-care by doing just a couple of things. These are all ideas. I'm not going to check your homework, guys. This is up to you to do on your own, independently. If you're scared to do anything else, this should make it a little easier for you. Okay. Spend 5 minutes a day snapping a spending pic in a free app like Pocket Guard, or like I said, you can also do, I think it's Rocket Money. There's a bunch of free apps out there, or get a manual pen and paper. That's what I do. Or go see what your bank balance is and how much money you're spending in different places, things you can cut. I know that like when I first did my evaluation, we were eating out way too much. It was costing us more to eat out than it was just to buy groceries. So you have to find what you can cut. Highlight those things. Just make note of them. That's all I'm asking you to do. Okay? Then I want you to jot down your 3 values: family time, creative freedom, inner peace. Okay? Or whatever your 3 are. Those are examples. Whatever your 3 are. And then I want you to audit one category. Does this coffee run serve that? Does this DoorDash serve that? Does this $30 bag of gummy bears serve a purpose? Just throwing stuff out there. No judgment here. And I would never know anybody who would spend $30 on gummy bears from Amazon at all. Never. Not me. So, anywho, just swap one non-essential item for the week. Okay? Just swap one non-essential item for the week. That's all I'm asking you to do. You don't have to do a massive budget overhaul right now. But I want you to be more mindful of what your finances look like, because I think we do spend a lot of time avoiding that. And I say that as somebody who has avoided the finance aspect. Okay? I also want you to check out a couple of different free tools. So get your pen and paper, okay? CFPB has free debt tools and financial well-being guides. Mental Health America's Citizens Project blends money anxiety tips with screenings. Employer EAPs often offer confidential counseling and financial coaching at zero cost. If none of these are an option for you, that's okay. I want you to go over to YouTube. I want you to go over to TikTok. I want you to go over to Google, whatever area you want to search. And I want you to find how to start creating a budget or something very simple. There's a lot of people here on TikTok who do the little money envelopes. Follow them. Find whoever's method works for you and start listening to them. Whichever one resonates with you. I'm not even going to suggest anything in particular. All right. Now, nurture long term. What you need to do is nurture a values-based relationship with your money. Okay. You need to pause before you spend. Do I really need this? And you know what? If I spend cash, I am less likely to spend as much as if I am swiping a card. Okay? I'm less likely to spend stuff than if I'm swiping a card. Why? Because I can actually see the money leaving my hands. And these little cards that we have nowadays, they make it real easy to spend recklessly and impulsively. And I want you to think about that. Okay? I want you to think about, does what I'm doing right now, is what I'm spending this on, align with my life vision, align with my life goals? I promise you, if you do this even just 1 week, you're going to start feeling less stress and more in control, regardless of your financial situation. Okay. You just need to make one mindful choice at a time. That's it. So the bottom line is this: bad financial decisions, bad spending habits, not paying attention. I'm not going to judge you on that. I'm not going to say, oh, you're a moral failure because you did this or that. No. I want you to understand that you are just human. The economy is wild. The way the world is designed has us not paying attention as much. And I just want you to be more mindful and more intentional about your spending, okay? It is better to learn your lesson the hard way than to not learn at all. Owning your financial wellness is a mental health therapeutic piece of work if you are struggling financially, okay? Because if you don't have the money to pay your bills, you are going to struggle with your mental health. All right, so it can be intertwined and it can be non-negotiable. So let's improve one thing that might improve your mental health. Be more mindful about where you're spending your money and be more intentional, okay? You guys have absolutely got this. I want you to start small wherever you are today. I want you to start small. What is one money shame you're ready to release? Drop it in the comments, drop it in the chat, whatever you want to do. Let's normalize it together. I want to release stress over money. I want to break free from debt. That is my 2026 is my level up year. Find what it is you want to do to adjust your money situation. And if you're already financially free, how can you make your money start working for you? How can you make your money start working for you so you can be more comfortable? All right. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for liking the live. You have been incredibly wonderful. I appreciate you all. I am going to log out and call it a day. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, guys.